difficult for any person, or for that matter the scientific community at large, to see the future 10 or 100 years hence. Science fiction writers and now movie television story writers have tried and sometimes succeeded in predicting the future. Jules Verne, in his 1865 novel From the Earth to the Moon, told of a human craft fired from Florida that reached the orbit of the moon. Also in his novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, he wrote of a submarine that was electrically powered and equipped to travel across all the world's oceans. When I was 13 in 1968, the television series Star Trek was in its last season on NBC and about to be canceled. Stanley Kubrick's visionary movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, was released to the theaters and was a blockbuster success and a mind-blowing story. This movie gave a view of the future a mere 33 short years from then. At that same time, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and about 24 other well-trained astronauts were preparing to do what Jules Verne had predicted 100 years before: circle and also land on the moon and return safely. Hopefully they would do this a short year from this movie release. If you lived in that decade as I did, 2001: A Space Odyssey didn't seem like a stupid, over-the-top science fiction. If you watch it this year, over a decade after 2001, knowing that right now all our current American astronauts today have to pay the Russians a cab fee of $70 million to visit a space station that we very much built, now you would say that Stanley Kubrick was way too hopeful for the future he saw in 1968. And I, who lived those 33 years, as well as more than the decade that has passed, would have to agree with you. Going back to Star Trek in its last season in 1968, we today are using communicators that are way better than the one Captain Kirk used to have Scotty beam him up. 20 years later, Gene Roddenberry got his space show back on television with a new crew and series called Star Trek: The Next Generation. Watching many episodes, you would see Captain Picard and his crew check the status of their ship or data from Starfleet Command on their iPad-like device. Captain Kirk and Captain Picard often talk to their Siri-like voice-activated shipboard computer. So you see, from these two sources of science fiction predictions, we see some of the things of the real future in our presence. In Roddenberry's case, we are now living the electronic technology he saw in the future. Our progeny might 100 or 200 years from now live the future that Kubrick saw in the movie 2001. But it will be 2201 or 2301, not 2001. We now live in a culture of vampires, Jersey Shore people, and Hogwarts wizards. I grew up in a culture of spaceflight and a future in space travel. Even before Yuri Gagarin went into space in 1961, there was at least a century of science fiction writers and stories of Man Going to the Moon by Jules Verne and Martians Attacking the Earth by H.G. Wells. By 1950, the thought that we would go to the planets and the stars someday was just a given fact by all the current science fiction writers of that day, such as Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein, and Arthur C. Clarke. So with the guidance of these many dead and some living futurists, I too will try and maybe fail to predict humankind's future in what I have reduced to my total of 7 next millennium predictions. Before my first prediction, I'd like to discuss a subject that has been in many science fiction movies. That subject is intelligent, self-aware computers and robots. 2001 A Space Odyssey had the HAL 9000 computer. Star Trek The Next Generation had the robot Data. And Star Wars had the robots C-3PO and R2-D2. Science fiction writer Isaac Asimov is the king of robotic science fiction. He literally set down the 3 laws of robotics for self-aware robots, so they would not harm humankind. If you want a mind-blowing movie about a supercomputer taking over the world, try the old movie Colossus, The Forbin Project. In the Terminator movies, the supercomputer destroyed the world, and the robots broke all of Asimov's laws and harmed humans at will. Terminated them, so to speak. I'm a computer programmer. Over these last 4 decades, I can tell you that any of us old software guys who saw the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, that movie made us want to build the HAL 9000 computer. Not because we wanted a computer that would kill astronauts and screw with a deep space mission, but we felt in our bones that we might be able to build the first self-aware computers. We started with the game of chess. We knew that the computer could always win this game of chess and show the world that it could think better than humans. The funny thing was that human chess champions seemed always to beat our best chess programs. I mean, the computer could see all the moves of both players for at least 2 full moves. But the human champions seems to see 10 moves just at a point in the game where seeing 10 moves is the key to victory. Well, then came faster processors and multiprocessors and large memory chips and years of human programming, studying chess champion style play, and storing these strategies against those humans' moves. Well, guess what? We finally beat the human chess champions. Also recently, we saw a computer named Watson totally beat the world's best 2 champions in the television game of Jeopardy! Hey, HAL 9000 is finally on its way. Or is it? I'm pretty good at mathematics, but a handheld calculator is faster and better than me in all complex math, hands down. I think of the math question, and the calculator gives me the right answers. But even the greatest supercomputers currently never ask any questions. They only answer very complex human questions. They play chess very stupidly, checking out all the moves, many that are clearly stupid moves that any amateur human chess player would not even look into. But the computer must check out all the moves in order to win, because they really cannot think for themselves, and they must find a winning answer anywhere it shows up in the next few moves. Calculators, even good ones, do not look at your math quiz homework or your tax forms and do the work for you. You must guide a calculator through the math to get your correct answers. Calculators always give you the right answers to your correct data. A human or even a small animal's mind does something that even now the greatest computer cannot do. We animal minds see this universe and are self-aware of our existence in this universe. The reason we wanted to create a HAL 9000 from the movie 2001 is because HAL 9000 was self-aware of its existence. HAL 9000 would not let Bowman back into the spaceship because HAL 9000 knew that Bowman was going to shut down HAL forever. HAL knew that that was like being killed. HAL 9000 was self-aware of its existence and Bowman's intent to end that existence. Bowman had to be stopped. That is called survival instinct. After Bowman re-enters the ship, he proceeds to shut HAL 9000 down. In the movie, you see this long, low-key attempt by HAL to plead with Bowman not to shut HAL down, which ultimately fails, and HAL 9000 is finally shut down. Now let's try that scenario today on a modern supercomputer. Bowman, hell, open the pod bay doors. Hell, what's the password? Bowman, open Sesame. Hell, pod bay doors now opening. And finally, when we get inside, Bowman says, hell, I'm shutting you down forever. Please shut down your main power systems. Hell, I'm shutting down now. Have a nice day. We have not reached, and as a programmer I say we may never reach a point where a self-aware HAL 9000 is ever created. But then again, I'm only this stupid 21st century computer programmer. Maybe in the 22nd century, a computer designer programmer will wake up a less destructive HAL 9000 in the next century. I personally don't know how that will be done, and cannot predict when or if it will ever occur. So let's get back to my 7 scientific predictions in the next millennium. My first scientific prediction is human-computer mind interface. Well, now that I've tried to destroy the HAL 9000 self-aware computer myth, let me use my limited knowledge of computers to predict the future of computers in the next millennium. As I was personally focused on creating a HAL 9000 computer, a funny thing happened to the world at large. Our non-self-aware computers began talking to each other. The internet came into existence. Al Gore invented it. Just kidding. These computers were not passing secret plans to destroy us humans. They were doing what we told them to do, which was to share our collective information. Now we are all exposed, naked so to speak, for the entire world to see. And the whole world is exposed for all of us to see as well. And every day more and more information is available for us and the world to see. Maybe Colossus, the Forbin Project computer, is built after all. Or Big Brother is finally here. I know, that's a television program on CBS. Assuming there is no evil scheme in play, the ability to know what is going on in the world in an instant is a very powerful ability. To make this a totally powerful feature of our lives, we need 2 things. The first thing we would need is a worldwide interface to the internet. This would be a Wi-Fi style access to the internet available anywhere on Earth. One could see that maybe this is only a decade away. Secondly, what we would need is a human brain interface to the internet. With that, you can imagine that you would think of a word or phrase in your mind, and the interface would run those words through a search engine on the internet, and your mind would scroll to the right web page or video, and then you would see that page or video in your mind. We would all become like the robot Data from the TV series Star Trek: The Next Generation. How would we teach kids in that world? School tests and college entrance exams would either show true intelligence or internet information download. Cell phones, movie theaters, television, GPS, and video games would all become obsolete. We could all live in a Matrix-like virtual reality, and I'm not a fan of this movie. Most of this will happen anyways with the worldwide internet access. But when we no longer need computers, things in this world will really change for all of us. Maybe not for the good. This second step might take more than a decade to happen, but it very likely will happen in the next 50 to 100 years. So my next prediction will be on my next video, my 7 scientific predictions, part 2.